Fast food jobs are hard.
Hi, can I take your order?
55 burgers, 55 fries, 55 tacos, 55 pies, 55 cokes, 100 tater tots, 100 pizzas, 100 tenders.
But the hardest thing about them might be following these weird rules.
Anyone who's ever worked at In-N-Out knows that all employees must follow a strict dress code. So just how stringent are the company's rules in regards to its male workers' uniforms? While In-N-Out is probably most famous for their burgers and fries, you might also know their easily recognizable employee uniforms. While on the clock, each member of the burger joint staff has to adhere to a strict dress code that contains 9 distinct pieces: a white shirt, pants and socks, a pair of black shoes and a belt, a hat, a red apron with a gold apron pin, and an In-N-Out name tag. The company does not permit the wearing of unsanctioned pins or stickers, but unauthorized flair is not the only uniform rule the burger restaurant is a stickler about. In-N-Out also has fairly strict gender policies when it comes to employee uniforms. As one new employee recently discovered on Reddit when he made a post asking his fellow employees, "Can the guys wear the red hats?" While all employees are expected to wear a company-issued hat, the poster explained that, as a man with long hair, he would prefer to tuck his hair under In-N-Out's branded red baseball caps rather than the white paper hats. However, he was soon informed that it was very unlikely he would be given that option. According to In-N-Out employees on Reddit, the red baseball hats are only permitted as part of the women's employee uniform, while male staff members are expected to wear the white paper hats. Many of the In-N-Out workers were quick to inform the newer employee of the strict dress code rule. One Reddit user explained, "Official dress code is that guys must wear paper hats unless they're outside. If they're outside, they can wear a hat with a brim for sun protection." Others recommended putting long locks in a bun, or cutting the side shorter to keep it out of way while working. Some even suggested it might just be easier for male employees to simply cut their hair rather than to try to tuck it all under the flimsier hats. So although the red-brimmed hats may be better for tucking away long hair, male employees are still expected to don the white paper hats while working in the In-N-Out kitchen, regardless of how long their hair is. But that's not the only strict rule In-N-Out employees are expected to follow at work when it comes to appearance. The company is known not just for its signature burgers, but also for its warm staff, great customer service, and family-friendly atmosphere.
It's the best!
As a result, they have fairly strict all-around appearance and grooming standards for their employees. In addition to their meticulous uniform standards, employees also have to maintain a neat, well-kept personal appearance. All male employees must be clean-shaven and keep their hair trimmed, while female employees must always tuck their hair into their hat whenever they are working, according to Deliciously. No employees are allowed to have an unnatural hair color, such as blue or pink, and visible piercings are only permitted in the earlobes, with no more than 2 in each ear. For many years, the company also did not allow staff to show any visible tattoos, although that policy appears to have relaxed a bit in recent times. All of this adds up to a pretty rigid employee code, especially for a casual burger joint. However, for many In-N-Out employees, the strict employee dress code is worth it for the perks and benefits they receive. The chain gives employees your standard on-the-job perks, such as 1 free meal per 8-hour shift. Deliciously shares that employees may also receive extras like Christmas presents, parties, free company-sponsored outings and picnics, and bonus rewards for good performance, such as paid trips and vacations. In-N-Out has also long paid their staff a higher wage than most other burger chains, with Business Insider reporting in 2018 that part-time employees started out at an average of $13 an hour, and store managers were making an average of $160,000 per year. In addition, all employees receive benefits, including dental, vision, and life insurance, profit sharing in a 401k plan, and paid vacation time. In fact, in 2018, the company even received the number 4 spot on Glassdoor's Employees' Choice Best Places to Work list, the only large restaurant chain to crack the top 50.
You can tell you're excited about this. You really like this.
Oh, definitely. I love it.
So while expectations for In-N-Out employees may be high, the burger chain seems to have high standards for the way staff is treated as well.
Chick-Fil-A is one of the most popular fast food chains in America, and that's true both with customers and employees, who generally report good experiences from working there. Good vibes aside though, there are some decidedly unique rules Chick-fil-A workers have to follow. When you say thank you after getting your order from a Chick-fil-A employee, you won't hear "you're welcome" in response. You'll actually hear the more formal "my pleasure." This is not necessarily because whatever just occurred was enjoyed by the employee. It's rather because "my pleasure" is the response encouraged by Chick-fil-A. The practice of saying "my pleasure" instead of a "you're welcome" or "no problem" or "sure thing, champ" started when the chain's founder was staying at a Ritz-Carlton hotel. A Ritz-Carlton employee used those 2 fateful words, and he was completely taken with the phrase, which he felt truly elevated his experience. He requested that "my pleasure" be used by employees of Chick-fil-A, and it eventually caught on and continues today. In fact, many former employees reported almost impossible to stop using My Pleasure, even in locations where it's not always required.
Christian even said my pleasure as he was changing our tire.
Until a few short years ago, visible tattoos were banned company-wide for Chick-fil-A employees, and workers were required to buy specialty sleeves or other garments that covered any tattoos visible on arms or other body parts. Today, the company has dispensed with an official policy banning visible tattoos, but they are still prohibited at many Chick-fil-A franchise locations. And while not expressly prohibited by overall policy, a look through comments from Chick-fil-A employees on job sites reveal a culture generally opposed to visible ink. That said, many locations are relatively flexible about the unofficial policy, so a tattoo is no reason not to apply for a position working at Chick-fil-A. But if you also have dental or body modifications, or if you wear strong perfumes or excessive makeup, you might want to alter your style before applying to work at the franchise. If you rock a cherished beard or a great goatee, you'll need to look elsewhere than Chick-fil-A for your next job. Chick-fil-A employees are not allowed to have any facial hair beyond a neatly trimmed mustache, such as is permitted by military regulations. A person's mustache must not be wider than his mouth and can't be long and thick, and sideburns also have to be trimmed. And a team member appearance memo from a Chick-fil-A on Fulton Street in New York City goes so far as to dictate that any team member presenting improper facial hair at work, quote, must go buy a razor and shave before being clocked in or be sent home. Many Chick-fil-A team member handbooks contain this rule: false fingernails are not allowed in customer service areas or food preparation areas. So that means, in effect, that false nails can't be worn anywhere at work. And it makes sense for a restaurant to limit something like large acrylic nails that can easily detach and risk falling into a customer's food. Chick-fil-A rules do, however, go beyond state law and do indeed concern style and self-expression. Most locations do not allow any nail polish beyond solid colored polish or a French manicure. It's important to note that Chick-fil-A is not the only restaurant with this policy, because there are health code requirements in many places that relate to the potential of polish chipping during food prep. If you want to work at a Chick-fil-A, you had better either be a very polite person or be able to act like a very polite person for an entire shift multiple days per week. Any lack of friendly positivity is not allowed for a Chick-fil-A employee. The entire corporate culture of Chick-fil-A is built around unflagging politeness, and many employees report that being polite has to start right from your initial job interview. One former Chick-fil-A employee who left a posting regarding the interview process said, "My best advice is to be yourself, be polite, and dress nice. CFA is a customer-oriented company, so make sure you can show them that, saying yes ma'am, yes sir, no thank you, my pleasure, etc. If you work at a Chick-fil-A and you want to get your hair dyed, that's no problem at all, assuming that is, you get your hair dyed black, brown, blonde, red, or some variety of these naturally occurring hair colors. That's because unnatural hair dye colors are banned for Chick-fil-A employees. That means no blues, pinks, greens, purples, and so on, even if they are just streaks of color highlighting your natural hair, and easy on the styling too. The ban on hair dye at Chick-fil-A seems to be a product of the company's conservative culture. The reserved style required by the rules of the restaurant may dissuade some people from even applying to work there, while in other cases it may force employees to conceal their own sense of style or even sense of self while at work. For many people, those delicious Chick-fil-A waffle-cut French fries are as much a draw as Chick-fil-A's vaunted chicken sandwiches. And many of those fry lovers would love to get their French fries well done. When you ask for your fries well done, this means fried twice. As in, a Chick-fil-A employee would literally resubmerge your already finished French fries back in hot cooking oil and deep fry them again. This results in a darker, crunchier, and all-around more delightful food. This used to be a favorite semi-secret menu hack for many people. But sadly, employees at many Chick-fil-A restaurants are now banned from giving customers well-done fries, even when asked. The main reason they can no longer give fries well done is simply that refrying French fries takes too long, slowing down progress in the kitchen and slowing fulfillment of orders. Owning and operating a string of fast food restaurants can make you a very wealthy person indeed. If you work hard and you have a spot of good luck, owning one Chick-fil-A franchise can make somewhat flush as well, but you'd better not try to expand your fast food restaurant empire beyond that one location, because that's against the rules. Chick-fil-A franchise owners may only have one Chick-fil-A restaurant at any time and no other business ventures. This rule forces Chick-fil-A franchisees to put all of their time and energy into their one location, and it also means that no franchisee will develop significant power over the larger chain. So while Chick-fil-A restaurants may be famously affordable, though challenging to acquire, know that you will almost surely not expand beyond one restaurant if you were looking to get into the chicken-centric fast food business.
What happens if an employee is caught at Taco Bell while off-duty? Is it true that the chain has rules about its hats? And when does the restaurant actually close? If Taco Bell employees use their discount to buy food, they have to stay at the restaurant during their lunch break. Employees are actually free to leave during their lunch if they consume food they've gotten elsewhere, but if they happen to stock up on a few burritos and nacho fries from their own franchise, they must consume them in-store. According to Inc., the company's logic is that it doesn't want its servers using their employee discounts to buy food for others. Making their employees dine in is an attempt to mitigate what they see as a potentially costly loophole. Several Taco Bell team members weren't happy with the change. They felt it was unfair that they were forced to stay on the premises if they weren't being paid for it. Regardless, Taco Bell ended up winning the approval of the Ninth Circuit Court, according to a decision posted by Bloomberg Law. Taco Bell's Restaurant Support Center also has a strange rule about what its staff can and can't do during their lunch breaks. A Taco Bell employee stated on Reddit that staff members at the franchise's Restaurant Support Center weren't allowed to bring in any food from competitors or they would be, quote, disciplined. The employee also said that the best part was that after lunch, the trash cans outside of the building were always filled with trash from competitors anyway.
But you already know what you want from Taco Bell. You always have. So don't eat like me. Eat like you.
So despite the rules, staffers clearly got around it by eating their lunches outside of the building rather than at their desks. If you're a frequent customer of the Taco Bell drive-thru, you might claim to see differences between the same order put in at different franchise locations, but that's not necessarily the case given how the restaurant manages its ingredients. Every item at Taco Bell is actually weighed on a scale. If the weight is even tenths of an ounce off the target weight, the employees are supposed to throw the item out and start over. A Taco Bell manager writing for Thrillist explained that if a soft taco goes on the digital scale, it is supposed to weigh 1.6 ounces. Yes, exactly, the manager added. We all train with a scale, and we have to get used to doling out the ingredients precisely in order to make everything the correct weight in the end. It's very hard to get that right. When it comes to rolling burritos, one Taco Bell employee on Reddit says there's an artful technique taught in training. The employee was asked why at some locations the contents are evenly distributed in burritos and in other items they're not. The worker explained that they're taught to fold items like an H so customers get more of an even bite of everything inside the burrito. Now, what about those items that aren't an even mix? Apparently, it's due to employees folding their items in a less than ideal I shape. This means that when it comes time to fold up the burrito, the process simply doesn't spread out the ingredients in the same way. So it stands that some managers may implement that H-shaped burrito rolling rule, finicky as it may seem, to keep customers happy. According to a 2015 Taco Bell employee handbook, the restaurant's workers aren't actually allowed to spend any time at Taco Bell when they're not on shift. Specifically, the handbook states that employees can't hang around their Taco Bell location inside the restaurant, in the parking lot, or on company property when they're not working. The wording doesn't make it entirely clear whether or not employees can run through the drive-thru on their day off to grab a meal, but it could be assumed that it's not strictly approved either. Another brave Taco Bell employee took to Reddit to answer the internet's most burning questions about the fast food chain. They revealed that regardless of an item's condition, the employees are not supposed to remake any food without a receipt. That doesn't mean everyone follows that rule. That particular Taco Bell worker would just remake someone's order if it was made incorrectly, or even give out free drinks or desserts if the contents of a to-go bag were less than satisfactory. But don't expect that at every Taco Bell location you visit. Just to be safe, remember to hold on to your receipt until you've scarfed down the whole meal. Sometimes when you order Taco Bell, the number of hot sauce packets a worker throws in your bag will vary. According to one Taco Bell manager, employees are told to only give out one sauce pack per item. But the twist comes when people ask for a handful or a lot. As you may guess, that doesn't equal a specific number. So when a location is slammed and the workers are expected to get orders out as fast as possible, some employees opt to give plenty of packets to avoid any potentially disastrous holdups at the counter or drive-through window. Taco Bell is synonymous with many things, and supremely satisfying food after a night out is surely one of those. Therefore, it's always a popular late-night spot for people in need of a whole lot of meat, cheese, and carbs on a budget. According to a Taco Bell manager on the Taco Bell subreddit, the inevitable late-night rush can sometimes determine the exact time employees finally get to clock out of their shift. At some locations, if the staff makes $75 or more in the hour before closing, they have to stay open an extra 30 minutes. Taco Bell often gets super busy after midnight, so it makes sense that they'd accept those orders past closing time if the line is still wrapped around the building. As with many fast food establishments, the uniform worn by Taco Bell employees is all important. According to an employee on Indeed, even the Taco Bell hat is meant to be worn a particular way. One questioner asked if Taco Bell allowed its employees to switch up the way they wear the hat. An employee wrote on Indeed, "There is one specific way to wear the hat with the bill to the front. Taco Bell is quite strict in its uniform policies." For most managers, then, even the matter of an employee's hat angle simply isn't up for debate.
Starbucks baristas have to follow a lot of rules. Some of the strange policies include a strict dress code, rarely saying no, and being limited on how fast you can work. Here are some other weird rules for Starbucks employees. Starbucks really has no problem with employees dyeing their hair any shade of the rainbow. However, if they're going to go all out with some unnatural hair color, the chain asks them to commit to it. In other words, Starbucks doesn't allow its workers to wear temporary hair dye and other temporary hair changes, including colored hairsprays, hair glitter, and hair chalks are also off limits. The Starbucks Employee Style Guide asks that all hair color is permanent or semi-permanent for the sake of food safety. It seems like Starbucks is worried some unsuspecting customer might open the lid to their macchiato and find a bit of hair glitter floating on top. You might be wondering though, if semi-permanent hair color is okay, then why not temporary hair color? What's the difference? Semi-permanent hair color sits on the surface of your hair and lasts between 4 and 12 shampoos before fading. Temporary hair color, on the other hand, washes out with one shampoo, making it much more susceptible to fall out. If you've ever used temporary hair color, you can likely attest to the way it can get just about everywhere if you're not careful, which could mean staining clothes, tissues, and anything else that your hair touches. When it comes to employee regulations, including about clothing, Starbucks can seem pretty militant. Think about it. Every time you've gone into a Starbucks, what were the employees wearing? Probably nothing memorable, right? The Starbucks Employee Handbook and Style Guide goes a long way to ensure that this is the case by inviting employees to wear a variety of colors that are, quote, subdued. According to the guide, these subdued colors include black, white, gray, navy blue, and brown. But Starbucks goes beyond simply monitoring the color of its employees' clothing. The guide specifically addresses patterns too, once again using the words muted and subdued to describe what's acceptable, including small stripes, plaids, and tight patterns. Busy and bold patterns are also a no-no, with Starbucks stressing that overall, solid patterns are okay. Specific shirts that Starbucks employees aren't allowed to wear include any shirts with loud colors or busy embroidery, as well as those featuring large logos or an inconsistent wash. When it comes to jeans, the trends change almost every year. From bell-bottoms to skinny jeans, dark wash to light wash, blue jeans come in many forms and fashions. Light wash jeans have been growing in popularity over the last few years, but Starbucks still says no when it comes to employees dressing in this particular pant style. Instead, it asks employees to only wear bottoms in darker denim or fabrics in black, navy, or brown. The only light colors permitted for Starbucks employee bottoms are grays and khaki. Other types of pants that Starbucks employees can't get away with include jeans with holes, baggy jeans, jeans that are too long, leather pants, athletic pants, and sweatpants. When it comes to tattoos and piercings, Starbucks employee rules are just as strict as you'd probably expect them to be. Considering the other items on this list, Starbucks employees cannot show off any face or throat tattoos, and any tattoo with questionable imagery must be covered as well. The chain also doesn't allow more than 2 earrings per ear, as well as no septum piercings. No jewelry is allowed on the hands or wrists, including watches. You can wear one plain band, so wedding rings are good to go, though engagement rings are not. While you might think that Starbucks employee dress code rules are a bit harsh, they were once much harsher. In 2019, Starbucks slightly adjusted its dress code to allow facial piercings for the first time, including nose studs and ear gauges, though they couldn't be larger than a dime.
Oh, dumb Starbucks. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you thought it was Starbucks.
I did.
Most working adults probably understand that they should go to their place of employment having showered and made themselves presentable, especially when it comes to food service. But Starbucks wants its employees to wash away a few other things from their bodies, including things that might be acceptable in most other work environments: nail polish and perfume. Regarding the former, the Starbucks employee handbook notes employees can't wear anything that could fall into food or drinks. Perfumes, as well as fragrant products like lotion or body wash, are prohibited for similar reasons, because according to Starbucks, strong scents could interfere with customer experiences. The rule against perfume makes some sense at least. As scent is a huge part of the dining experience, you likely wouldn't want the aroma of your coffee interrupted by a whiff of someone's Axe cologne or overly floral perfume. If you ever feel you've had to wait a long time for your order at Starbucks, you should know that your baristas are most likely working as fast as they're permitted to. In 2010, Starbucks made changes to their employee guidelines that may have left customers waiting longer. This rule change dictates that Starbucks employees are not allowed to make more than 2 drinks at one time, and they can only start making a second drink once they are almost finished with the first. Additionally, employees have to steam milk for each Starbucks drink separately, versus steaming a larger batch of milk at once. The rules also say that employees have to wash certain tools after every drink, that they can only use one espresso machine at a time, and that they aren't allowed to move from workstation to workstation. The policies were intended to create a more efficient coffee line, but as soon as they were rolled out, Starbucks employees reported that things weren't as efficient as they should have been. The Wall Street Journal quoted one employee as saying that wait times doubled in some cases, and longer lines were the result. The Starbucks policy against telling customers no when they ask to use the restroom extends even further. Technically, Starbucks employees aren't supposed to tell you no at all, regardless of what your request might be. Rather, the policy is just say yes. According to former Starbucks employee Carrie Dills, the concept is simple. If a customer brings up a problem or complaint, offer them a resounding yes. Don't focus on what you can't do for a customer, tell them what you can do for them. For example, Dill says if a customer asks an employee to microwave a drink for them because it's been sitting next to a laptop for an hour, the employee should not say no. Instead, the employee should say yes to warming up the customer's drink with some steamed milk. So, the next time you have a special request at Starbucks and you think there's no chance that the employee will help you out, go ahead and ask. There are 2 specific customer requests that Starbucks employees are required to give a resounding no to. If you ask to go into your Starbucks a little early to get that perfect seat by the window, or if you ask to stay a little late to finish up that last email to your boss, you're out of luck. Starbucks employees are required to keep customers out until their exact opening time, and they must herd customers out the door as soon as the clock strikes closing time. If you think you're an exception, you might want to think twice. In fact, one Starbucks employee told Insider that asking to break this rule is one of the most annoying things a customer can do. The employee told the outlet, "There's an entire checklist of things the employees have to do before they can open the store, and they really can't open 15 or 30 minutes early for an early bird customer." Showing your gratitude for the service workers and other professionals in your life via tipping is a pretty nice thing to do. However, if you're thinking of offering a holiday or even a just because tip to your favorite Starbucks barista, you might want to think twice. Starbucks tipping policy dictates that employees must split cash tips equally. According to a Reddit thread, how strictly this rule is enforced seems to depend on the cafe, though many employees feel peer pressured enough to not break the rule, even when a good tip is at stake. Starbucks employees on Reddit also reported that some customers have worked around the splitting tips rule by putting cash in a sealed envelope with an employee's name on it and asked the employee to open the envelope later. However, it's unclear whether that employee is required to split what's inside. Some employees responded that they would feel bad about not splitting these kinds of tips, while others declared they understood that some of their colleagues absolutely deserved to keep them. Overall, it seems like the Starbucks team really is a team of people who support one another. And many employees indicate they get a pretty good share of tips, even when they're all distributed evenly.
Working at McDonald's might not seem like a glamorous job. The pay isn't high, the hours are long, and you're on your feet all day. What you might not know, however, is that Mickey D's has some pretty weird rules that employees must follow, or risk being fired. Many McDonald's are open 24 hours for drive-thru service, but most close their dining rooms to the public late at night. This allows the restaurants to run a skeleton crew and sufficiently clean and prep the interiors for the morning rush. Once the interior is closed, it is closed. McDonald's employees aren't supposed to let anyone in, even paying customers who just want to use the bathroom. Part of the challenge is in keeping the bathrooms clean with just a few employees on the clock. But part is also a safety issue. Store managers don't want people coming in and out, especially when there aren't many customers, because it leaves the store at risk for burglaries. This rule made national headlines in 2011 when a 7-year McDonald's crew member got fired after making an exception for NFL Pro Bowl running back Adrian Peterson. According to an article in Inc., the McDonald's employee initially turned down the Minnesota Vikings' request to use the bathroom. However, after Peterson revealed who he was, the employee went ahead and let him in. Unfortunately, when the employee showed up to work the next day, she was fired for breaking the rule. There is a happy ending to the story, however. After the media caught wind of her firing and it started to make headlines, the employee was quickly rehired. Be honest, you hope the people handling your food at McDonald's are washing their hands frequently, but you may not realize that McDonald's staff policies require employees to wash their hands at least once an hour with antimicrobial soap, and in some countries, at least once every 30 minutes.
So that's like 2 seconds per finger.
I guess you could say that.
It's not clear why this rule varies country to country, but in the United Arab Emirates, the standard is at least once an hour, while in Great Britain, it's at least every 30 minutes. If that has you wondering what the rule is in the United States, you're not alone. Sadly, there doesn't seem to be a standard guideline that all United States McDonald's employees are told to follow. In a subreddit group titled McLounge, which is dedicated to McDonald's employees, a question was posed about updated hygiene standards related to the 2020 coronavirus pandemic. Answers from different employees varied from changing gloves after every customer, using hand sanitizer after every customer, washing hands every 15 minutes, washing hands every 30 minutes, or some combination thereof. The good news is, it appears personal hygiene is strictly enforced. The bad news is, it's not 100% clear what the hygiene standards are. For any Generation X child reminiscing about childhood birthday parties at McDonald's, it probably goes without saying that Ronald McDonald most likely plays a significant role in those memories.
Hi, how are you?
And while the bigger-than-life clown has gradually faded from public view, with articles referencing his slow demise dating back to the early 2000s, his character was so well known that in the 1970s, the company hired a, quote, boss clown, whose sole responsibility it was to hire and train the men who don the big shoes and bright wig. The first boss clown, AJ, penned a book titled Ronald and How. This book detailed a slew of rules that all Ronald McDonald actors must strictly abide by, most of which are still enforced today. One such rule is that actors must maintain the illusion that Ronald is in fact real. As such, these actors can only respond to the name Ronald McDonald while in costume. It's pretty standard practice that restaurant employees aren't supposed to give away free food. But some restaurants have exceptions, like offering a free coffee to police officers or other first responders. McDonald's is not one of those restaurants. Okay, so very occasionally they'll offer a company-wide exception, like in April and May 2020 when they offered free thank you meals to healthcare workers and first responders in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. But generally, McDonald's enforces the no-food rule rigidly and without exception, with those who dare to break the rule facing the potential of immediate firing. Take, for instance, an example cited in Dutch Daily News, in which a McDonald's employee was fired after giving a colleague an extra slice of cheese on her hamburger without charging for the slice. Ultimately, the fired employee took McDonald's to court and won a small settlement, with the Dutch judge stating that termination was too harsh an outcome for such a slight offense. So while firing might be off the table for giving away a slice of cheese, if you have friends who work at McDonald's, don't expect any freebies while they're on shift. Management clearly takes all types of corporate theft very, very seriously. It's late, maybe you're a little drunk and you're hungry. There's a Mickey D's right around the corner, and because you know better than to drive while under the influence, why not just walk through the drive-thru to order a burger, some fries, and a milkshake? Well, there's a rule against that. Chances are, if you try to walk through the drive-thru, you'll be turned away.
Hey, good morning. Caroline, this is not a walk-through, it's a drive-through.
According to the McDonald's website, crew members are not supposed to serve pedestrians at the same point where they serve vehicles. Apparently, it's for safety reasons, which, when you think about it, makes sense. If a car is pulling up to a drive-thru late at night and doesn't see someone standing in the drive-thru lane, it's an accident waiting to happen. That said, the website also notes that they're aware of pedestrians' desire for late-night grub fests, and as such have installed some pedestrian walk-up windows at restaurants that operate 24-hour drive-thrus. That way, when the dining room is closed for the night, but the drive-thru is still open, you may still be able to order your chicken McNuggets and quarter pounder if you're so inclined. According to a 2019 article in Mental Floss, there are more than 36,000 sets of golden arches worldwide, staffed by more than 2 million McDonald's employees. For any food corporation that has that many restaurants and that many employees, it's absolutely essential to figure out how to effectively deliver consistency to customers who expect every McDonald's hamburger to taste exactly the same, regardless of location. One of the ways McDonald's does this is with strict enforcement of food construction. Every ingredient must be added in the exact order described by McDonald's corporate office. In the Mental Floss article, one department manager explains that meats, cheeses, and sauces must be arranged in a specific order, and failing to do so can make a big difference in customer satisfaction. For instance, if the cheese isn't placed between the 2 burger patties in a McDouble, the cheese won't melt, which more or less ruins the perfect McDouble experience. That said, people who aren't good at paying attention to detail may struggle to keep their jobs at McDonald's. The whole point of hitting the drive-thru at McDonald's is to quickly be served your food within the comfort of your car. It's simple. You pull up to the menu board, place your order, pull up to the service window, and receive your food. So if you've ever pulled up to the window and have been asked to pull forward and park to wait for your order, you may have been somewhat irritated. Why add another step to the process of receiving your food? Well, according to an article on Mental Floss, McDonald's restaurants are expected to have a fast turnover of customers through the drive-thru. In fact, many stores have sensors that time each customer's progression from the menu board to the service window, and restaurants are expected to serve each drive-thru customer within a set period of time. If an order requires more preparation and is interfering with this rate of turnover, drive-thru employees will ask you to park to wait for your food. If this extra step is too much of a hassle for you, try not to order menu items that take longer to prepare, like pies or grilled chicken. For speedy drive-thru service, ordering a basic Big Mac is probably the way to go. If you're concerned about how long the burger you ordered has been sitting under the warming lights, you don't have anything to worry about. For one thing, at busy McDonald's restaurants, the turnover for popular menu items is quick. So almost as soon as new items are prepared, they're being sold. But if you happen to visit the Golden Arches when it's quiet, or the restaurant you frequent is slow, you still don't have much to worry about. McDonald's corporate office has very strict rules about how long each prepared item can sit before being tossed. According to a very detailed Reddit thread with answers from a former McDonald's employee, any burger made with the regular meat had to be thrown out every 15 minutes. But burgers made with more high-quality beef could be kept around a little longer. So, for instance, quarter pounder meat can usually be served for up to 30 minutes, while Angus beef is good for up to 60 minutes. Chicken nuggets would get tossed after 20 minutes along with the Filet-O-Fish. The respondent went on to detail all of the rules regarding shelf life for everything from condiments to oil, making it clear that well-managed stores keep strict tabs on food safety and quality. Sure, there are hacks for getting fresher food, like ordering French fries without salt, but there's no reason you should feel the need to use them. You're almost always guaranteed freshness when eating at McDonald's.
Have you ever walked into your local Panera Bread and noticed that the baked goods display is a little messy? There's a reason. Keep watching for what Panera employees have revealed about working there. Panera Bread reportedly gives its employees some pretty sweet discounts. According to Business Insider, they get 65% off anything on the menu, although there are some restrictions. As one Reddit user noted in 2017, the discount can only be used at an employee's home store. As that Redditor explained, your discount does not apply at other stores because the discount is done by employee number and you'd have to be in their system. You can, however, purchase meal vouchers, which are discount vouchers you can use at other stores or to give to family and friends. Then, in a 2021 Reddit thread, someone claimed that they were told that they can only use their employee discount while working. Another user confirmed the policy while noting, "It is extremely stupid and not the way it works at any other company I've worked for, but it is true you don't get a discount on days you don't work." Fresh food and fast serving times don't always go together, but Panera is nevertheless trying to master both. Alas, employees aren't too thrilled about the emphasis on getting customers their orders in 3 minutes or less. As one employee lamented in a rant on Reddit, "This is impossible, especially with the influx of orders coming in from online pickups, deliveries, the registers, kiosks. It's insanity. The managers just keep stressing how important the service times are on us. They don't care about anything else. I've seen numerous food safety violations daily because of this, and we almost failed our last audit, but all they care about is the numbers." Someone else pointed out that this problem is caused in part by having a minimal amount of employees working the line. And another commenter noted in a different Reddit thread, "You can't cut your staff down to only 3 people during the peak hours and still expect every customer to receive their food in under 3 minutes in a restaurant that makes literally everything to order." So keep all this in mind the next time you're at your local Panera, and maybe cut the cashier a little slack if your sandwich and soup order isn't in your hands within 3 minutes flat. It's not just the dine-in and to-go orders that are expected to be completed in 3 minutes. As one flummoxed Panera employee vented on Reddit, the drive-thru expectations are unreasonable at best. Having a vehicle out in less than 3 minutes when you are 7 to 8 deep and everyone is ordering hot sandwiches does not add up. Other employees have expressed similar issues and concluded that the food they serve makes the quick drive-thru model impossible. As another Redditor proclaimed, "Panera food, by pedigree of what it is, takes a lot more time to prep and get out the window, meaning it applies horribly to a drive-thru concept." You may have noticed that no matter what time of day you walk into a Panera, it seems like their team has been hard at work for a while. That's an effect achieved in part by an always evolving baked goods case that is never perfectly staged. As one Redditor detailed in their discussion of life as an opener, "One by one, I'd grab each tray, pull out the pastries, and then set them up on their respective display according to the book. And when it comes to bagels, Panera is strict about making sure they're displayed rather casually, as this employee also noted. I'd have to toss every bagel in its respective rack. Toss, not place. They were super picky about bagel arrangement. It essentially had to look like in the display because that was authentic, and got pissed when I tried lining them up neatly."
Oh, great. So much for bagels.
You probably know that when you're looking for substitutions and extras from just about any food establishment, you're going to have to pay extra. But the process isn't always straightforward, as some Panera employees have revealed how there seems to be no rhyme or reason for what they do and don't charge for when it comes to these customer requests. If, for example, you're looking for a yummy sandwich but aren't a fan of the recommended sandwich bread, you can swap it for Panera's other offerings at no cost. You can also substitute meat in salads and sandwiches for avocado without paying more, which is particularly helpful for vegetarian and vegan customers. But don't interpret this to mean that adding avocado is always free. Panera associates can offer a lot of vegetables to be added to dishes, but some of them, like avocado, do indeed require an extra fee. Extra! Panera prides itself in working with local charities near each of their stores to minimize food waste. It's an admirable policy, but employees have explained that it's often difficult for charities to find someone to come pick up food each night. As a result, a donation sometimes goes unclaimed at closing time. As one former employee named Adrian explained to Refinery 29 in 2017, this policy may have changed, but it used to be that leftover bread was donated to different local charities at the end of the night. It was pretty frequent and unfortunate that the charities wouldn't come pick up the donation on their assigned nights, and local shelters wouldn't take it because they couldn't verify that someone hadn't tainted the food. If I was closing and someone didn't collect the donation, I took it home with me instead because I drove a pickup truck. Management was always okay with it. Many employees have shared stories of what they've taken home with them thanks to managers who look the other way when it comes to this policy. However, some have noted that it depends entirely on the particular manager, and it's best to go about this the respectful way and ask before taking anything.
If you get a job at Wendy's, what exactly will the home of the square patty expect from you? What are the most unusual rules? At Wendy's, phones and photography are strictly prohibited for employees. According to the chain's rules of conduct, Taking pictures, bringing cameras, or other photographic equipment into Wendy's is prohibited unless written approval is obtained from the Home Office. Hoping to start a TikTok account exposing Wendy's or showing what your co-workers do behind the scenes? Well, it's off limits, and you might lose your job. Wendy's is serious about this rule too, particularly the use of phones, noting in their employee manual that phones are not to be used where customers can see. Maybe that's because some things are better unseen. In a Reddit thread from a Wendy's staffer inviting questions about the chain, a user commented about Wendy's use of cheese and the procedure their employees have to follow concerning the dairy product. The comment reads, "We leave our American cheese out for like an hour before use, and it sits out even longer if we're slow. It's called tempered cheese." While this may sound disgusting, another user commented, "In all fairness, the idea of tempered cheese might not seem appealing, but Wendy's did get special permission from the FDA to do so it's safe." We're not certain whether that last claim is true, but we do know we're guilty of doing the same thing at home every now and again, so we really can't judge too much. On another Reddit thread, one user mentioned more of the cheese practices at Wendy's, in particular what they do to their cheese sauce. According to their comment, customers are basically eating melted cheese with hot water. Suddenly, we're not craving a baked potato anymore. If you are a fan of Wendy's chili and don't want anything to ruin it for you, beware. This rule that Wendy's staff has to follow might turn you off from their version of the famous soup. Wendy's employees follow a very specific and kind of disgusting protocol that multiple former employees on Reddit have admitted to. One particular user wrote that employees are to collect hamburger patties as the day goes on and later put them in the chili. A Reddit user said they'll run them under hot water for a good while and then chop it thoroughly by mashing it with 2 spatulas. According to this user, the chili is assembled on site, but each different component is made separately. Most of us would expect staff to have to wear gloves for safety and sanitary purposes, but at Wendy's, sometimes the opposite is the case. That's right, Wendy's employees are forced to do certain parts of their job without gloves. On a Reddit thread started by a Wendy's employee, one user noted that employees are not allowed to wear gloves when handling meat of any kind. This user and another who commented on the thread found the policy kind of odd, and we did at first too. But there is a bit of an explanation. Another user pointed out that many restaurants follow this policy, claiming it's cleaner for employees to wash their hands thoroughly before, between, and after each handling of raw meat, rather than using gloves and potentially cross-contaminating. Although this policy seems strange, it's actually keeping the food safer and encourages employees to be more hygienic. Not many jobs offer discounted food as a perk, but at fast food restaurants, it's standard. Wendy's offers employees a generous discount, but only at certain times. The employee manual states, Wendy's meal program allows a 50% discount for meals eaten half an hour before or half an hour after your shift, or while you're on break. The maximum retail value is $10 per meal. Outside of those designated hours, staff are allotted a 10% discount and are unable to apply said discount to their family and friends' food. A Reddit user detailed this rule, adding that the chain also offers something called a VIP card that gives you a 25% discount. The user noted that these are only given to crew with certain requirements, suggesting perhaps one criterion to attain such a card is having children, but the user is unsure. Either way, Wendy's employees are certainly getting a good deal when it comes to the price they pay for their food. Hopefully, they don't get sick of it.
Subway employees must be proficient at every position in the restaurant. But do you know all the rules staff must follow, including a very specific number of olives they have to put on a sandwich? All of the prepared meats offered to a customer at a Subway restaurant must be cooked before they are served, and that's true even if a customer doesn't want a hot sandwich, according to a post shared on Reddit. If you request, say, a rotisserie chicken sandwich but don't want it toasted, the employee will then have to microwave the meat instead, and only then put it on your sandwich. This required cooking is performed even though all of the meat is pre-cooked. The secondary heating can kill off the bacteria E. coli, hence the requirement that employees heat the meat even if they're not zapping the entire sandwich. For reference, temperatures above 160 degrees Fahrenheit will kill E. coli, according to Science of Cooking. Per the Cleveland Clinic, you definitely want all of that bacteria dead, as it can lead to severe stomach pain, cramping, diarrhea, internal bleeding, and in extreme cases, even kidney failure. So cut the Subway folks a break on this one, or just get the sandwich toasted. It tastes better that way anyway. According to self-proclaimed former Subway employees sounding off on Reddit, the staff at Subway restaurants are only supposed to give you 6 olives per sandwich. It's even worse news if you're ordering a 6-inch sandwich, because then you are only supposed to get 3 olives. This is because the black olives are apparently considered high-end vegetables, meaning they cost more money. Tomato and cucumber slices also fall under this definition, so you may be able to watch as a Subway worker carefully limits the amount of these foods added to each sandwich.
Hungry? Starving! Silly question.
Then again, at other locations, olives are added as generously as any other veggie. Subways are all franchise-based operations, so different stores will be more or less stringent about different policies. By the way, there are indeed non-high-end veggies. Lettuce, spinach, and onions, for example, will be heaped on by the handful. Also, here's the catch. While Subway employees are told to limit the volume of high-end veggies they add to each sandwich, they are also obliged to add more if a customer asks. So watch closely as your sandwich is assembled, and feel free to ask for more olives or tomatoes or cucumber, and so on. Subway's policy is that anyone getting a Veggie Delight sandwich is entitled to double the amount of cheese that comes on a sandwich with meat or with a vegetarian patty. That amount of cheese is 4 slices for a foot-long sandwich or 2 slices for a 6-inch sandwich, for the record. But here's the thing. At almost every Subway, the customer ordering the Veggie Delight has to ask for the extra cheese. To be clear, you are entitled to double cheese with a Veggie Delight, and Subway workers know that. You just have to ask for it before you will get it. When you do, never fear, because you will not be charged extra. For those of you who order sandwiches with meat but still yearn for more than 2 or 4 slices of cheese, you can pay for double cheese and only lay out an additional 30 cents for extra cheese on a 6-inch or 60 cents for double the cheese on a foot-long sub, according to real menu prices.
So picture this: sandwiches without the bread.
Interesting.
Okay.
If you have ever seen someone walk into a Subway and request myriad different ingredients packaged up and handed over separately, this was not a one-time fluke, and it was not an occurrence that you will only see at that one specific Subway location. It happens all the time, according to this poster on Quora. A customer may order a sandwich and then, for example, request the tomatoes and the cucumber packed up separately, which would make sense if they were going to eat it later and didn't want it getting soggy. Or they may ask for the ham, cheese, lettuce, tomato, cucumber, black olives, and all the rest of it packaged up separately, and the worker will hand over the effectively disassembled or yet to be assembled sandwich. Even the dressing can be taken to go in a little soufflé cup. Okay, so remember how Subway employees have to give you all of your ingredients separately if you ask? They are also supposed to give you as much as you want when said ingredients are the lower cost veggies. According to answers posted to a forum on Quora, there is technically no limit to the amount of vegetables a Subway employee can give a customer who has ordered a sandwich or wrap or salad. One former employee described how one enterprising and unscrupulous customer would come in daily and request so much lettuce that the staff would preemptively have 2 bags ready to accommodate it all, with more lettuce at the ready to replenish the supplies at the counter, according to BuzzFeed. So go ahead and ask for extra onions or green peppers or jalapenos, or even request more black olives and extra tomatoes. The workers may not be thrilled with you, but they will oblige, even if you ask for so much lettuce that they can't fit it on the bread and end up grabbing a bag. Subway workers are, within reason, obliged to make each and every change to a sandwich that a customer asks for. According to BuzzFeed, that has led to some truly horrific sandwiches. One former Subway employee said, "We used to have a guy come in regularly to order a footlong on white with just double mayo, salt, and pepper." Another recounted an awful but easy-to-make sandwich, saying the customer asked for a 6-inch on honey wheat with every condiment. Surely the worst of all the sandwiches reported in the article was the meatball cookie sub. Yes, meatballs and cookies. The employee said, "This guy got a meatball sub, then he continued to ask for numerous veggies. Then he asked for 2 chocolate chip cookies crumbled onto it." Don't call them employees, or staff, or workers or chefs or cooks. Call them Artists, sandwich artists. That's right, the people who work at Subway restaurants are officially known as sandwich artists, and Subway has even registered the term, showing the company's commitment to that terminology. And what does a sandwich artist have to do? Quite a lot, according to Waterproof Menu. An excerpt shared there, taken from an actual Subway job description, reads in part, "A sandwich artist greets and serves guests, prepares food, maintains food safety and sanitation standards, and handles or processes light paperwork. Exceptional customer service is a major component of this position." As for the attributes an aspiring sandwich artist might have, the description also said, some high school or equivalent education, the ability to understand and implement written and verbal instructions, must be able to work any area of the restaurant when needed, and to operate a computerized point-of-sale system/cash register. Position requires bending, standing, and walking the entire workday. Those sandwich artist requirements we just discussed may not sound like the highest standards any job has ever demanded. But don't think you can just breeze your way into a job off the street and work your sandwich-making magic. There is a rigorous training period, and a lot of tests, as it turns out. According to a copy of an official Subway employee training manual, the training process begins with a pre-test. You will be given one pre-test before all 5 of your training shifts. Guess what happens after each of those 5 training days? That's right, another test. A later excerpt from the manual reads, "At the end of every shift, you will receive a post-test related to everything you trained for that day. You are required to pass every post-test in order for you to pass the validation at the end of your training. During validation, you will be asked a few questions about the Subway process, and finally, if you proceed to answer these questions correctly, you will be awarded the job." Technically, Subway employees need only be on time for their shift, not early, but if they arrive merely on time, they must come ready and get straight to work. That's according to the employee handbook. So the suggestion is made that workers arrive at the restaurant about 5 minutes before their shift.
When Subway opened, they changed the fast food game. But sometimes you gotta refresh to be fresh. Welcome to the Eat Fresh Refresh.
When it comes to staying after your shift is over, that can be a non-negotiable issue when the circumstances warrant. The manual dictates, employees must be willing to stay past their scheduled time at times when the store does happen to get busy. And don't even think about an unexcused absence if you want to retain your sandwich artist role. If you happen to miss a shift and don't call and give the manager a reason as to why, you will be terminated. Sandwich artists have to greet all customers the same way, and that greeting is simply, "Welcome to Subway," according to the official rules. This is true whether there isn't another customer in the shop or if there is a queue snarling around the whole place. Not only must customers be greeted in a certain way, but they also must be treated in a certain way. The guidance given is, customers must be treated in a professional manner, be patient with customers, even if they are giving you trouble. Last but not least, remember that the customer is always right. So as it happens, sandwich artists need to add thick skin and equanimity in with the other attributes required for success. America might run on Dunkin, but what about the people who keep Dunkin running? What happens when employees fall in love? Why isn't everyone allowed to make breakfast sandwiches? Ever check the fingernails of the person handing you your 20 cents of change at Dunkin? We haven't either. But if you were to look, you might notice they're always pretty bare. Dunkin has an anti-fancy nail policy outlined in its handbook, of which, by the way, you can snag a copy online if you're ever in need of some light reading. The policy begins by saying that fingernails must be kept maintained and clean, free of dirt or debris, before getting more strict. The handbook goes on to outline, nail polish is limited to natural colors and may not be more than half an inch long from the tip of the finger. Artificial nails, nail charms, or decals are not permitted. One Reddit user confirmed that acrylics, while fabulous everywhere else, are not so chic at Dunkin. The Reddit commenter confirmed, "No acrylics, no polish. The manager fired a girl for not removing her acrylics and she gave her like 5 days to do it." While there seem to be some inconsistencies between locations about how stringently this rule is implemented, the fact that it's in the handbook seems strange enough. While Dunkin's anti-acrylic stance might make sense, a chip of polish in an egg sandwich is a frightening thought. The coffee chain also has inexplicably specific rules regarding jewelry, makeup, and tattoos. The handbook outlines that tattoos must be covered. Seems a bit uptight, since not only did Dunkin make SkinFo's list of most tattoo-friendly employers, but they also celebrated National Tattoo Day last summer with a line of their own temporary ink. So that line in the manual may need updating. But as employees on Indeed have verified, the official company policies on jewelry and makeup are more heavily adhered to. They are, quote, limited to wearing no more than 2 earrings per ear, and hoops are prohibited. The outline continues by saying, necklaces must be worn under shirts. Watches and a single ring on each hand may be worn. Bracelets should be removed before starting a shift. facial jewelry, and tongue rings must be removed before the start of a shift. If you think that verges on absurd, their makeup policies will put you over the edge. Dunkin' employees are apparently not allowed to wear, quote, excessive makeup, which is then specified as, quote, dark eyeliner and bright-colored eyeshadow. We don't know about you, but we see no problem with a little bit of ColourPop eyelid inspiration with some daily Dunkin'. This rule made us laugh. Something about seeing "socks must be worn at all times" in the employee handbook feels just hilarious and bizarre. The coffee and donut chain cites their health and sanitation policies as the reason for this decree, which we could see a case being made for. One quick Google search of "is wearing socks more sanitary than not" turns up pages worth of articles about how socks absorb moisture, should probably be changed every day, and how not wearing them could indeed be bad for your health. Didn't know socks were such a hot topic in the health arena? You're not alone. But Dunkin' might not actually be so well versed on the sanitary sock subject either. When we asked ex-employee Caroline Hoffman if she remembered that rule, she said it probably has more to do with the shoe requirements than anything else. She said, "The shoes were so weird, so that was probably right."
America runs on Dunkin'.
So yes, just about any workplace has a dress code, and as we've established, Dunkin's is in many ways oddly specific. But here's where it gets a little weirder. The Dunkin' look starts with a crisp white polo, which, as Hoffman and many other employees have attested to, gets very dirty. Hoffman remembered the coffee stains were not easily removed, and neither was the smell. That white polo is layered under the brown apron and topped with the visor and these days a mandatory mask. This is all the fairly standard part. But as for what to wear on the bottom, Dunkin' demands either khakis or jeans, with an emphasis that seems consistent across chains. Absolutely no black jeans. After watching many vlogs about new hires' first weeks at Dunkin', we gleaned a bit of insight into the quirky training regimen that Dunkin' uses. First of all, they teach a couple of different abbreviations to their workers. Our personal favorite is EMC, also known as the egg, meat, cheese equation, which outlines how to make a sandwich. The second is CARE, which is a 6-step process that means, quote, greet, take order, collect payment, assemble order, deliver, thank you, and come again. We're not sure exactly how the letters translate, but we found this one on a Quizlet someone made summarizing the employee training procedures. While on-the-floor training seems to vary, we were surprised to learn that the general consensus seems to be to start newbies on iced and hot coffee first, and encourage them to focus solely on those basics for their first 2 shifts. Hoffman remembers that the iced coffee wasn't too complicated, saying, "We made the iced coffee in this giant bucket with ice and water and stuff." Hoffman shared one of the rules she thought was kind of comical, and it might surprise you. She said, only more senior crew members could prep and put together the breakfast sandwiches. She went on to explain that during her summer spent behind the register at Dunkin' Donuts, she started to think this was, quote, kind of backwards, adding, working the register and drive-thru can require a bit of mental math, a lot of speed, and quick thinking, especially if a customer is feeling moody that day. I was usually the one spitting out 10 iced lattes and packing 24 donuts, while the more senior members would toast some bagels or put cheese on croissants. Sounds like maybe this rule was less about capability and more about rewarding the senior members. This is a pride point for Dunkin'. At the top of their press kit, they proclaim the following: Dunkin' Donuts coffee is freshly ground, freshly brewed, and freshly served. If not used within 18 minutes, Dunkin' Donuts coffee is discarded and a new carafe is freshly brewed. We get it. Overcooked coffee is a less than appetizing way to get your caffeine fix, but you have to wonder about the science behind the 18-minute decision. As Hoffman remembers, this rule was pretty strictly adhered to at her branch in Parma, Ohio. Hoffman recalled that there was an actual timer on the coffee carafe, and whenever it would ring, an employee was charged with pouring it out and refreshing it. She shared, "It's a little wasteful, but coffee does get stale, especially when you're making it in such big batches." Reddit users didn't have the same experience. Although Dunkin' practically guarantees the 18-minute standard, there's no way to ensure every location complies. One user confessed, "It might be a company standard, but whether upper management enforces it or not is entirely up in the air. At my Dunkin', we would mark the pots, but our managers were too cheap to waste the coffee, so we just remarked them without pouring anything out."
I'll see you at 2 o'clock.
I'll be there.
Ah, the office romance. A tale as old as time, and one made even sweeter when the office is packed with powdery donuts. It's no surprise that Dunkin' addresses workplace relationships in their handbook. Any quality employer should probably consider the reality that 8-hour shifts alongside coworkers often blossoms into something more. But the tactics they outline for how they handle romances are rather odd. First, if two coworkers become involved with each other, move in together, or get married, Dunkin', quote, will first attempt to offer comparable employment in another department/store to one of the individuals. Basically, one partner needs to move to another franchise location. If an alternate location isn't available, Dunkin' says they will terminate one of the two employees. This raises the question, who stays and who moves onward to donutless employment? Dunkin' lets the couple themselves choose, and if they can't agree, management will step in and decide for them. The handbook reads, if the two employees together cannot reach a decision on the job move or on the termination, the company will make the decision based on the best business-related interests of the company. The Dunkin' Employee Handbook is in many ways a very standard document. The paragraphs run into each other, broken up occasionally by a bullet point or subtitle, but near the end, an entire sentence sits bolded, standing out starkly from the rest of the document. We will not be able to offer employment to any employee that cannot work weekends. As the company also attests, they do a majority of their business on weekends, so this rule makes sense. But it's hard to imagine, considering there are 5 other days of the week to schedule workers on, that a person could be excluded from employment altogether just because they can't make it in on Saturday or Sunday. Dunkin' uses a help telephone line to respond to reporter inquiries. The company is very clear about this in the handbook. If you are ever approached by a reporter or any member of the media for any reason, you should first have your manager contact the 24-hour Dunkin' helpline, and then immediately notify Don McDonald, VP of Operations. Seems like they're stressed, and after examining the press they've gotten in the last decade, everything from racist advertisement debacles and TikTok scandals to fatally overworked employees, they may have good reason to be. Dunkin' Donuts instructs their employees to advise media that all inquiries must be referred to corporate.